Thursday, October 19th, 2017. I'm your host, Sarah Beal. Thank you for joining us. We have a great show in store for you today. On today's show, we will talk with Town Clerk Ann Quirk about the upcoming votes happening in the town. Then we'll get a legislative update with 5th Barnstable District State Rep. Randy Hunt. And finally, we'll get a look at tonight's Town Council agenda with Town Council President Eric Steinhilber. But first, let's get a look at today's top headlines. The Department of Public Works will be performing sidewalk repairs on Main Street, Pearl Street, South Street, and Ocean Street in Hyannis beginning on Monday, October 23rd. The work includes repair of failed curb and sidewalk sections, correction of tripping hazards in existing sidewalk areas, repair of broken tree grates, complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act standards, and improving aesthetics. Motorists and pedestrians may be redirected around the construction operations when necessary. Both motorists and pedestrians are advised to seek alternate routes to avoid the construction work. Construction operations will start promptly at 7 a.m. and run until 5 p.m. Work is expected to be completed by November 30th. The Assessor's Office would like to remind residents that the FY 2018 residential exemption application and documentation should be returned to the Assessing Office before November 1st. This will ensure that if qualified, the exemption will come off of the first actual tax bill in January. If you have any questions, please contact the Assessing Office at 508-862-4022. The town of Barnstable is currently accepting applications for artists and artisans interested in participating in the 2018 Hyannis High Arts Cultural District Artist Shanty Program. Applications are due Friday, October 27th. Subsequent applications will continue to be accepted on a rolling basis following the state for any remaining spots for the 2018 season and will be filled based on a need and availability. Applications can be downloaded from the homepage at www.highartsdistrict.com. Now let's get an election update from Town Clerk Ann Quirk. Ann, thank you so much for joining us today. We have 2 elections coming up, so we want to make sure the residents in the town of Barnstable are fully aware of what's going on. So first up is the vote on October 24th, so let's talk about that.
Okay, so that one is for Cape Cod Regional Technical High School. They want to build a new building, which they desperately need. And the cost to us is listed right in the actual question on the ballot. And that's all that ballot is for, is are we going to support them for a school or are we not? And that vote is for 12 towns. So Barnstable is just one of 12 other communities that are going to be voting on the same day. And it is a cumulative number. So all of us will be posting our results that evening, and as they put it all together down at Cape Cod Regional Technical High School, they'll know if they're going to get the building or not. Okay. And that vote doesn't start until noontime. It's different from our normal elections.
Yeah, no early birds that day.
No early birds. Starts at noon and it ends at 8, and you have to fit it into that time or come into our office before Monday at noontime so that you can actually have an absentee ballot.
Monday?
The
day before?
Yes, the
day
23rd?
Before, the
23rd.
Okay. So if you want to do an absentee ballot, because you can't get there on Tuesday the 24th from 12 to 8, you can come to the clerk's office here at Town Hall and do an absentee ballot, but only until noon on the 23rd. You can come in before that, obviously,
yes.
But noon the 23rd is the last time that you can come in and do an absentee ballot.
Absolutely, and we actually lock the door at that point, and close everything down so that we can make sure we have everything all set to go to the polls the next day.
Yep.
So we close at noon for about an hour so that we can go over everything that we need to have and make sure everything is set to go the next day to each of the locations.
Yeah, and everyone will vote in their normal polling location.
Absolutely.
You'll just be voting between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m.
Yes, that's the biggest change right there.
There'll probably still be a few people who show up early to vote, but trying to let people know between 12 and 8 on the 24th, those are the voting hours. Everyone in the 12 towns is voting at the same time between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m.
Correct, and that's how it has to go.
Yep, everyone has to do it the same exact way.
Correct.
Okay, so the next election after that is the town election. That's on November 7th.
Yes.
Yes, so talk about that one.
Tuesday, November 7th is our election day. As you know, every other year we have a town election. And this year on the ballot are school committee members, housing authority members, and in all the this is in the odd numbered districts or odd numbered precincts, myself as well. And we will have 2 questions on that ballot. In the even numbered precincts, you're also going to have to vote for your town council.
Yep.
So in some of the cases, there is a definite contest going on, and you need to go out and cast your ballot for that person that you want to represent you in your precinct.
Yes.
But everyone is going to have school committee, housing authority, and myself on there. And then also, you're going to have 2 questions there on the ballot. And we have Will Crocker to thank for getting one of them on the ballot for us, because he actually supported the charter question going through the House and Senate and finally to the desk of the governor to sign off on it. So it has made it on our ballot for this year. And so there are 2 questions, and one is a non-binding question. It has to do with Pilgrim nuclear power plant, and it's a very technical thing. And I
look it up, do some research on it.
It's actually up on the website.
Perfect.
So everybody can see it. That the 2 questions and throughout the town votes are up there. Individually, to put up every other precinct. So to put up a ballot for precincts 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12, it would get so cumbersome that we just wrote a list of everyone that's running,
right,
all the different candidates. So that kind of makes it easier for people.
So you can just go on the website, go under the town clerk,
under
election information, and you can find all of the information you need, the questions, who's running, all that stuff. And like you said, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Have town councilors that you're going to have to vote for either a new town councilor or existing, or some are running against somebody, some are running unopposed. So
and one Fred Chirigotis from precinct 4
he's termed out.
So there are 2 new people running. So you really need to come out and cast your ballot.
Let's see.
Oh,
so those. Okay, go ahead.
Before I forget, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Before I forget. 20 days before any election, we have a close of voting registration. So the close of voting registration has already happened for the October 24th vote. Correct. But we're in that right now, in that same cycle for the November 7th vote.
Right.
So the last day anyone can register to vote in the town of Barnstable, or change their address, or whatever they want to do in the town of Barnstable, is the 18th of October. And we will be open until 8 p.m. to take care of voter registration. But that's it. Yep. That's the end.
So if you don't get yourself updated by October 18th, 8 p.m. here at Town Hall in the clerk's office, whatever is already on there is where you're voting, or maybe you won't be voting because you're not registered to vote. So if you're 18 and you haven't registered to vote yet, this is a good time to come in and get yourself up on the rolls, so you can participate in the democratic process, as they say.
Absolutely. It's a privilege and a right.
Yes.
So please exercise that.
Yes, it's very important. So just to recap, we have the vote on October 24th for the Cape Tech School. That will be from noon to 8. And then the second vote we have is on November 7th. It's a regular town election. Polls will be open 7:30 to...
They actually open 7 a.m.
Oh, they open at 7 a.m.
to 8 p.m.
7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that's in every precinct. Every precinct is voting on November 7th. So no matter what precinct you live in, whether you have a counselor running or not, you do have a ballot.
You do.
So make sure you get out and vote.
Excellent, because it is important. Those 2 questions are on there. We really need you to have your input, and your vote is your voice.
Yes.
So please come out and vote, because we don't know how you feel about things if you don't.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Anne, for coming in and getting all of our viewers informed about the upcoming elections. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. My guest today is Town Clerk Ann Quirk. Coming up, we'll chat with Town Council President Eric Steinhilber about tonight's Town Council meeting. But first, let's get a legislative update from Randy Hunt, State Rep from the 5th Barnstable District. Randy, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we want to talk about, you gave a speech last week on the floor of the State House. Can you tell me a little bit about what the speech was about?
Yeah, I talked on an amendment that my fellow legislator Diana DiZoglio and I filed to a supplemental budget bill. And it really didn't have much to do with the budget bill itself, which just balances last year's fiscal year in. But it was filed as an outside section, which means you can file policy-related things as an outside section. So we did. And what we did was to earmark money that would be coming in the future to the Marijuana Regulatory Fund, and that is related to the recreational sales of marijuana. Specifically, there's an excise tax that the state will collect, and it will also collect fees for licensing and things like that. All of that money goes into this Marijuana Regulatory Fund, and from that, the activities of the Cannabis Control Commission will be paid for. And we also wanted to earmark a piece of that funding to go towards early education, prevention, intervention, all of the things that we need to really focus on, primarily for kids in school, so that we can prevent them from ever getting to the point where they are another statistic in this opioid epidemic that we have. Mm-hmm. So our amendment said that we are going to take 15% of the money that comes into this Marijuana Regulatory Fund and put it towards this effort, capped at $30 million. We thought that we might get some support because when the House 3 months ago passed the recreational marijuana bill that we passed, we included $50 million for this purpose. Mm-hmm. And it collided with the Senate version of the same bill on their side. The conference committee, in the end, put out a bill that we only had an up or down vote on that did not include any specific earmarking for this purpose. So Rep. DiZoglio and I felt that we had a pretty strong case, since we had already done this before, at a higher level even, $50 million versus the $30 million that we were proposing, to be able to get a specific earmark in. That money would go to prevention, education, early intervention. In other words, when we're looking at right now, we have in 7th and 9th grade, we have school nurses using a tool called SBIRT, S-B-I-R-T. That protocol helps them to identify kids that may have issues with addiction or other behaviors that are going to be problematic. And the problem that we have now is, if you identify that, then what do you do? If you want to send somebody to some counseling or get the entire family involved with some sort of effort to, nip this in the bud, we don't have the funding for that. And that's the type of thing that we're talking about: education, prevention, and intervention when we have kids who seem to be going down the wrong path. Because the only way we're going to get our arms around this opiate addiction problem is to go upstream and stop the flow of kids who eventually become people that need treatment and need long-term recovery supports. Just stop them from ever getting there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It's so important. Like you said, early intervention is one of the biggest keys to stopping any sort of drug addiction. So,
and it's not hard mm-hmm. to identify people. If you have a parent who has an addiction of some kind, it doesn't necessarily have to be an addiction to opiates. But if you have one parent, the chance of you having the same type of problem is about 50-50, coin flip. If you have two parents, the chance is about 85% that you're going to run into a problem. And that is both genetic as well as just the nature of the family and circumstances that people are in. We find kids in the first grade, second grade, third grade who are having a terrible time with the situation that's at home. It's causing stress. It seems nuts that a second grader would have stress like that. But it is true, and it's causing them not to be able to do well in school because they can't focus. When they go home, they're not getting fed properly, they're not getting attended to, and a lot of that is, I'll say, in a lot of cases, we find out that we have parents who are themselves addicted to an opiate or some other type of drug. And very often we end up with grandparents coming to talk to us to say they are now raising their grandchildren because the kids, their kids, who are parents, are subject to this opiate rage, and they themselves are in treatment and are really struggling through this situation. So we see it all the time. It's a huge issue. It's not actually getting better very fast, even though we have some positive numbers this year. And so we need to have a committed amount of money every year, year in, year out, for a generation to actually do something that's going to make a huge difference 20 years from now.
Right. Now, I know this amendment didn't pass, but do you have plans to bring something similar back or try something else in the future?
Well, no, we do. We do think that the House wants to do something like this. It wasn't the right time for a number of logistical reasons, which is fine, but we will be persistent, and we will push until we have an amount of money that's there every year that isn't subject to the whims of the annual budgeting process, where if we're a little tight that year, it doesn't get funded. We need something where we can have 30 million or whatever the number happens to be that we can count on year in, year out. Otherwise, on an annual budgeting basis, it's really hard to commit to a 5-year program, a 10-year program, a 20-year program. It's the type of thing that we saw with tobacco. We got a huge settlement from the federal courts. It was money that lasted for years, and we have convinced our kids that they should stay away from tobacco products. But they, on a survey that I saw that some high school students took, they actually rated the danger of smoking a tobacco cigarette higher than pulling a random pill out of a bowl at a rave party.
Wow.
So the good news is the tobacco message is getting through. As far as these other issues with addiction and pills and that type of thing, not so much.
Yeah, it's time to work on that issue now. It's time to move on and
yes, ma'am.
Focus on that. Well, thank you, Randy, so much for joining us today and letting us know about the speech you gave last week and what you're working on to help our community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
We'll talk to you soon, Sarah.
Okay, bye. My guest today was Randy Hunt. He's the state rep from the 5th Barnstable District. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. Town Council is meeting tonight at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room. And you got a fairly light agenda, but still some important things that you're going to be working on. Let's start with, there's going to be a presentation by the Asset Management Committee this evening. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, thanks for having me. That committee was formed by the Town Council leadership probably almost about a year ago now. And they were, their task was to review all of the property that was owned by the town, open property, and to categorize it, determine whether or not there was an actual need or use for it on the municipal side, to figure out how the town acquired it, and then to kind of prepare these parcels for disposition for sale. And for years, going back a couple of town managers, we we tended to just acquire things almost for the sake of acquiring them. And we've developed quite a large inventory of parcels that we own, but there really isn't a need for the town to continue to hold these properties. So we're preparing to put many of these parcels out for sale, and this presentation is not going to talk about any particular parcels, but it's just going to talk about the process that the committee's taken over the past year. Procurement will also be part of the presentation, as well as, I believe, the town treasurer, I think, will also be on hand, just to kind of talk about what they went through this past year. It was a lot of work, a lot of inventory to look at. So I'm really pleased with the work they did. And we really entered a different phase of the town where we're just no longer going to be acquiring property just for the sake of doing it, unless it's a clear need, demonstrated need, and a financial way forward to maintain a property. We're just not going to acquire property. So that's really a change in dynamic from years past. And we're actually looking to, like I said, sell many of these parcels off, get them back on the property tax rolls. Some of them will be commercial, some of them will be residential lots. So we'll be, starting to roll those out shortly.
Wow. Sounds like a huge undertaking. I know the town does have a lot of property, so kudos to that committee for taking on such a large project. Going right into the orders of the day under old business, you brought this up for a first reading at the last meeting. This is the appropriation and transfer order for $30,000 for the design and permitting of a pier in the Three Bays area. And I know later in the agenda you have another first reading for a similar transfer and appropriation order. So maybe we can kind of talk about both of those at the same time.
Yeah, the Three Bays pier was on for first read a couple weeks ago. And basically what this is we're going to kind of study this and come up with a design for a town pier that can be used for staging for dredging, perhaps some policing out on Three Bays, perhaps be part of the shellfish industry, but to have some type of a municipal staging area to do work out in the Three Bays area. And we're looking to do the same thing, out in Barnstable Harbor, where that was probably more prefaced by a lot of the commercial shellfish industry ends up in some of the residential streets in Barnstable Village. And as anyone knows, it's not really just a hobby anymore. It's become a really legit industry in our town, and it's only going to be growing. It's a commercial enterprise. So we need to start to think of it as such, and have the appropriate areas for loading and unloading and for accessing, the shellfish areas. So we're going to look at doing a similar thing with the town pier in Barnstable Harbor that will help some of these commercial shellfish fishermen on the north side.
Yeah, some really important projects, and these are both for design and permit phase of this, and the one for Barnstable Harbor is on a first reading for tonight. So then that will go for a vote at your next meeting on November 2nd.
Correct.
And then we also have a regulatory agreement with Guaranteed Fresh Produce. I know this is for their parking.
Yes, more housekeeping item. They're moving along with some improvements there, and just kind of had to get some relief there for some parking. So it's not a big issue there, but these types of things need to come before the council. Yep.
Like you said, just some light housekeeping. And then, I feel like every week the appointments committee is recommending people to boards, committees, and commissions, and you guys, take those for first readings and vote on them. So tonight we also have another chance for people to be appointed to many of our boards, committees, and commissions. I know you guys are always looking for qualified applicants, so.
Yes, absolutely. If anyone's interested in, joining the town government in some respect, a great place to start is joining a commission or board or committee. It's a volunteer time, obviously, but all the vacancies are always listed on the town council website, which is on the town webpage. And if there's something there that people are interested in, they can certainly apply through the town council office, and they can come in and meet with the appointments committee. And if it's a good match, we'll have them up for a read and a second read, and hopefully have them appointed to the committee. But we really rely on folks in town volunteering their time to fill these committees so they have quorum and they can meet and take minutes and actually take action on some things. And some of the committees are more heavy regulatory, like the planning board or board of health, and then others deal with like scholarship funds and maybe only meet a handful of times a year or a few times a year. Others might meet twice a month. So there's varied interest, varied time commitment. But I encourage anyone who's interested to please check out the town council website to see what vacancies are currently up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric, so much for joining us today, and good luck at the town council meeting tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. My guest today was Town Council President Eric Steinhilberg. Town Council will meet tonight at 7 o'clock in the Town Hall hearing room and air live right here on Channel 18. Now let's get a look at our community calendar. Hyannis Firefighters Local 2172 would like you to shave the date. This Saturday from 11 to 3 p.m. at the Hyannis Fire Department, there will be a Shave Off fundraising event for Lieutenant Rick Knowlton's fight against lung cancer. All proceeds collected that day will go to the Knowlton family. Come down and have your head shaved for $20. There will also be a touch-a-truck for kids, as well as hamburgers and hot dogs. Town Council meets tonight at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room, and like always, we'll air live right here on Channel 18. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with another great show for you. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Beal.